What's good, YouTube? This video is going to be about a body language trick that makes you instantly more attractive. Or how to attract a guy with this body language trick. Okay, so I don't got nothing to tell you about or sell you, so jumping right into this. The thing that you can do, this body language trick that you can use to make you instantly more attractive and stand out from other women is prolonged eye contact. That's right, looking people directly in their eye and not averting your gaze. Usually, when two people see each other, they avert their gazes. Either they make eye contact and smile, or they don't make eye contact at all. They just avert their gazes. They avoid what seems to be an awkward moment or a conflict. In protection of their egos because they're shy or they're crushing on somebody. But usually, 99.9% of people do not make prolonged eye contact. Women especially have this thing about completely pretending to not even notice a guy when she likes him or when she's attracted to him, which doesn't really do her any favors a lot of the times. I know that we're supposed to look very confident and we're supposed to ignore people according to a lot of advice when we like them and when we want to make an impression so that they try to get our attention. But sometimes it can have an adverse effect. Sometimes ignoring a person or never making eye contact with them, never acknowledging their humanity can actually make them less attracted to you and even sometimes a little bit offended. None of that is your problem. Again, you don't have to smile or acknowledge or look at anybody you don't want to. But if you're trying to make an impression, there are different ways to do it. It's more than one way to skin a cat. There are more than one way. Is more than one way whether to make a guy more attracted to you and make him notice you without saying words, without flirting, and without trying to talk to him and making the first move. One of the easiest ways to do that is to manage your eye contact. In general, when a very attractive guy comes into a room, the women may look at each other more than they even look at that guy. Most of them will avoid eye contact because people, by their very nature, are conflict avoidant. The way you can immediately stand out among 99% of the women that most guys might encounter is to hold a neutral gaze and not look down or look away when he notices you and he looks back at you. To almost have a mini staring contest, but not like obnoxiously. You let him win the staring contest, but it's because of your expression. Expression tells us a lot of different things, and sometimes if a person has a poker face or an expression that we don't quite recognize and we can't quite identify, then it makes us wonder about what's behind that expression. But the reason why you want to do this again is that it sets you apart from other women. A man may live months or even years without a woman staring him directly in the face without averting her gaze, without submitting to that moment and looking down or looking away or trying to do something to break the tension. Sometimes tension is a good thing. Sometimes tension builds wonder and builds desire. And so that's what you're manipulating here, is the tension. So you can't be afraid of tension if you're going to do this. Since so few women will hold their gaze and look a man directly in his eye as he looks back for a few moments, you immediately stand out among most of the women he's encountered, most of the strangers he's encountered in his life. It projects so much more confidence. It makes you look so much more bold and in control of who you are. And contrary to popular belief, or what you might think, it doesn't always make it look like you like a guy or like you're on his nuts or something. Like a lot of times when a woman is that bold and a woman is that in control of herself, she actually doesn't look like she's submitting to the moment. She looks like she's dominating the moment. She's controlling the moment. A woman who's not afraid of you can't be thought to immediately like you. Men are looking for that fear, that intimidation that they have. Sometimes they can tell they give a woman butterflies when she averts her gaze, when she looks down, when she smiles. There's a way to look pleasant and look positive without looking flirty. And so this is what you want to do here. And it will make him wonder about why you're staring at him, why you're not averting your gaze, why you're not intimidated, why you're not avoiding the conflict here. It's not about winning that staring contest. You can look away after a moment, after he notices you looking at him, noticing him looking at you. But what that does is it makes him wonder why you were so bold to do that, why you didn't look away, and why you stared at him for a lot longer than most other women would in the face of that tension. From that moment on, he'll be trying to catch you staring at him, in which you won't be staring at him anymore because you're only going to give him that once or twice. You're not going to always give him the satisfaction of knowing that you've noticed him in a room. He'll always chase that moment again. He'll always chase that validation of knowing that you've noticed him in a room. And from that point, you won't give it to him. You just need him to see you looking at him as he looks at you for a moment. And that creates the wonder. Why is she looking at me? Does she like me? Does she think I'm cute? What is she doing? Why is she so bold? What's so different about her than these other women that she's staring me directly in the face and not really giving a damn about me seeing her do this? She's not looking flirty. She's not biting her lip. She's not trying to seduce me. She's just staring at me. A man won't know whether he should be flattered or irritated. And that confusion will make him notice you and think about you and recognize your position in any room you're in from that point on. He'll always know where you are in space because you gave him that awkward moment that he's still trying to figure out. Many men will break that tension by trying to introduce themselves or, ultimately talk to you in some way and get an explanation for why you stared at them. A man might see 100 women. None of them will do this. Maybe 2 or 3 will have the heart, or 2 or 3 will have the awareness to do it. If you make yourself one of those 2 or 3 women, no matter what you're doing from that point on, he's noticed you in a room. And he's thought about if you noticed him again, if you stared at him and he just missed it. His imagination will start to wander and he'll start to be more interested in you, even if he wouldn't have noticed you before, because you're that girl that stared at him and didn't stop her gaze. So give him a very neutral but positive gaze. So it doesn't look like you're looking down at him or that you're judging him or that you're flirting with him. Just that you're happy, you're at peace, and he hasn't interrupted that. So what not to do when you do this? Don't smile flirty, don't bite your lip, don't do anything seductive. But sometimes eyebrow play is kind of attractive. A lot of women have very expressive eyebrows, which men really like. So to raise an eyebrow or raise both of your eyebrows or just do whatever it takes to make sure that your look is pleasant and positive and neutral and not flirty, but also not anxiety inducing. Don't what's the word furrow? Don't furrow. Don't scrunch your eyebrows to make it look like you're frustrated or that you're confused by him. Once you do avert your gaze, do so in a very neutral, positive manner in the same way. Don't look down and smile. Don't blush. Control yourself. Look at something else or someone else or pretend someone just called your name, but switch your attention in a very neutral way, having no response or visual reaction to the moment that you just had with this guy. He'll be noticing how it seems to affect you to have had this tense moment. Poker face it. If he tries to have another moment, just don't. Don't look at him. Don't acknowledge him. That day, you're done looking at him. You've given him his 3 seconds. You're done with him. The next day, he'll be looking at you trying to figure out if he can recapture that moment. I can guarantee you that the majority of women he's passed or he's seen or he's interacted with have not done that in a while. And if so, not very many have. So you will be on a very short list of women who were bold enough to control her emotions, her anxieties, and her fears about men and making an impression to stare at him for long enough to get his attention so that you both have that honest moment of recognizing each other. Men are just as afraid of holding that eye contact. A guy will notice a woman, stare at her from across the room, and avert his gaze as soon as she looks up. Very few times are people very genuine in noticing a person and not being afraid to be seen noticing a person. But that's because generally people think they're supposed to flirt or smile or speak or say something. You don't have to do that. In fact, sometimes the more awkward the moment, the better. Because it builds more wonder, it builds more desire, and it builds more tension. Anytime a guy has to figure out what just happened, you just shot to the top of the list of the women that he will notice in a room. And now he's trying to figure you out. He wants to see if you're ever going to look at him again, if he was somehow or another mistaken, if he had something on his shirt, if he had something in his nose. He's trying to figure that moment out, but he'll stick there, he'll stay there, and he'll be stuck there until he figures it out. Boldness and confidence are attractive, and not averting your gaze tells a man that you're in control of yourself, that you're bold, that you're confident, and you must have a reason to be. You must be different from other women because you're not acting like other women. And to make a man aware of you, all you have to do is do something different than someone else has done, or the majority of women has done. But remember, guys aren't threatened by women who stare. They're threatened by men who stare. Because there's no physical threat, he's just curious about why that staring is happening. And that creates enough wonder and enough mystery, which leads to a lot of desire. From that point on, in noticing that you noticed him, he'll always try to look his best in front of you. He'll fix his shirt. He'll adjust himself a lot more. He'll try to do whatever he can to make the best impression around you. You might even notice him dressing a little fancier after you've done that, or trying to place himself in a position that you can see him at all times. Because it strokes everyone's ego and it makes us all feel important to be noticed, even if we don't know why we're being noticed. As long as your look is more pleasant, neutral, and not attitude problem, you're going to make the impression that you're trying to make. In which case you can do whatever you want with his attention at that point. Confidence and boldness build intrigue and build tension. To be peculiar in comparison to the people around you makes you stand out. It courts attention. If you want a man to look at you, you might want to look at him first. Anyway, that's all I got for now. Follow me at KidFick24 on Instagram. I'll get with y'all later.